And that takes us to the nature of the contemporary state. The contemporary state is so intrusive, something that in the Islamic tradition hasn't known. And it is so intrusive in terms of its imposition of its own institutions, its own values, its own structures, its own laws on the various aspects of lives of society, from your birth to your death. You have to go through the state or state systems, regardless of whether they are ruled by Democrats or dictators. So that's and that's something common between the Arabs and the Turks. Now, Gulen has grown in an environment where there is a great degree of democracy for the civilian sector, at least, has been able to mobilize support, has been able to build institutions that deal with the elite and institutions that deal with the grassroots. Institutions that deal with the elite are the mass communication institutions, are the groups like the Writers and Journalists Foundation that acts as a de facto think tank, like the Rumi Forum as well, which is part of the global Gulen Movement. And as the different, like Bakiyad, which is an intercultural organization, they organize a Turkish festival every year in California, a huge one. And so they show pride in Turkish culture, and so to them, Turkish Islam is the identity. Being Turk and being Muslim is the identity that they have accepted. So the Gulen movement, I would say, have reconciled itself with Turkish nationalism. In the Arab world, Arab nationalism was led by authoritarian groups that kind of created some sort of a gap between Islamic movements and states, especially at the time of Nasser, that has been kind of receding. This kind of cultural this thing has been receding, which has contributed to the growth of a pro-democracy outlook. Now, what do Arabs learn from the Gulen movement? I think a major thing is that the sophisticated definition of how a social movement relates to the state, how it relates to power play. Gulen has decided, by looking at the Islamic tradition, that democracy is the best form of political system that can meet the requirements of Islamic values, the Islamic value of shura, of justice, of compassion, when it comes to the public sphere. And as such, a faith-based social movement does not need and has to stay above partisan politics, above the contest for power. But as such, the social movement can be so powerful in the sense that, I don't want to say it can be the kingmaker, but I would say it can frame public discussion through those institutions and through those mass media that Zaman newspaper is the largest distributed newspaper in the country. And Arab parties and groups have newspapers, but they've been kept down because of oppression, because of the oppressive regimes. And that's something that the Turks probably can thank the military for. But the fact that Gulen would not endorse any political candidate, would not get involved in saying who gets to be the next prime minister, does not stop him from raising his voice when it came to systemic issues of public concern. The referendum over constitutional amendments. That relates to what the state is and what the definition of power is all about. And that stuff relates to the work of social movements. the Ergenekon trials, the trials of the military leaders suspected of plotting to topple the government. He's in support of it because that is a systemic issue. In the Arab world, at least the Muslim Brotherhood now, and this is the last comment, they're learning from this. And to them, the Turkish, when somebody invokes the Turkish model to them, they refuse it, but to them that it means a military controlled political system. They don't want that. But they want the Gulen-inspired ideas of separating politics from social work. Rashid al-Ghannouchi, and this is the last thing, would not give any answer on a political question when he is in the mosque. So the mosque is not the place for it. There have been practices and mistakes along the way. Probably some of them came out in the media, more in the local media than in the international media. We can deal with it, but that's part of people learning what kind of democracy they want.